Right. Likely going to be long and rambling video, I guess, like is typical. Um, but I just wanted to uh, put this out there to show people this because I wish I had seen this before. And I guess to break it down into something really brief here. Um, Fuck Tweeko. I will never buy anything from them again unless anything, unless something substantially changes with that company. Um, and also, if I can help it, I will never buy anything from Arc Air again. Not necessarily because they're shit quality, but they've gone overseas with their manufacturing, and I don't like that one bit. Um, and as of so far, everything I've seen from Lenco that's branded Lenco is fantastic quality, American made, designed to last for a lifetime. And I wish I knew about them years ago. So if you're only just going to watch that little bit, then I guess there you go. But to kind of dive into the weeds here, um, so when I first bought my Trailblazer, I needed new. Ooh, shit! Actually, let me go grab those. So yeah, when bought the Trailblazer, needed to get new cable connectors for it, like such, because my other engine drive welder, my little Honda, has got a different size connector on the end of it. So do I have them? Well, yeah. So this is the Lenco calls it the lc-40, and that's what I'm going with. So this is the lc-40 type connection. This is what it comes on really every engine drive that I've ever seen around here. Around here, if somebody's got an engine drive and they have quick connects on it, this is the type that they have. I think it's also called the Tweeko cam lock or some shit like that. My Honda comes with these smaller ones here, and you can see it's the same design, like, you know, has a split down the middle of it, and, you know, same, I don't know, it's about a third quarter turn. It's the exact same concept, it's just a little bit smaller. So this is what I had previously, and I needed to get these for the Trailblazer. And kind of got off topic there, but yeah, so when I bought the Trailblazer, I just bought these connectors, which was what my local weld supply had in stock at the time. And these are Tweekos. Well, I guess that one's Weld Skill, but it came in a Tweeko box anyways. These did. And then, yeah, this guy doesn't say it on it either. Weld Skill. But yeah, they came in a Tweeko box. So I bought these. I got 3 of these for the Trailblazer, and then I got, I think, 2 pairs of these quick connects. And they work. I'm not saying that they don't work, but they are extremely stiff to deal with. And I've tried all kinds of things. I, you know, put a little anti-seize on there or something, and it would work somewhat okay for a day or two, and then be a pain in the ass again. And they're just annoying. And these are made in Mexico. I want to say that these said that they were made in India or something like that. And that just really ticked me off because I try not to buy offshore shit as much as I possibly can. So I seen that Lenco makes these same adapters but make them in the US. And it's unfortunate that they are much thinner than the Tweeko ones, but they don't get hot, at least in my application. You know, if you're running 800 amps or something, then maybe they would. And yeah, it's really unfortunate, I find, that they are so much thinner than the Tweeko ones here, but these are much easier to connect. And then I got the Lenco quick connects as well too, and these are so much easier to deal with. Of course, I say that, and then that one's kind of stiff. But yeah, I found these guys on eBay and these as well for less money, American made, than the Tweeko ones were. And near as I can tell, these ones here only come in this stupid gray color, where the Lencos you can get at least in red and black. I don't know if you can get them in other colors as well. But, and, okay, yeah, so kind of circling back to something else here. So these are old Tweeko connectors, as you can see, and I think oh, right there, USA. So Tweeko used to make stuff in the US, and of course some of their really old stuff is really good. Somebody was asking me the other day what like a part number is for these connectors. So it says says 1R-C, but that also says cover, so maybe that's the part number for just the cover. But anyways, for my Honda now, what I have is a short little jumper section of lead, like, so it's only about, I don't know, maybe 4 feet of cable or something, and then that way I can adapt from the smaller connectors up to these larger connectors. And yeah, so on these guys, it is cool that these are heavier, but I've since given away the others because I don't like how they connect, and I don't like that they're made overseas. And yeah, I've just given these things away. I do not like these. And then I guess to oh, holy shit, words are hard. Talk about the arc air. So you know, this is the normal, I think this one, oh yeah, K2000, this is their small size gouging torch. You know, the normal gouging torch that essentially everybody has. You know, there's nothing necessarily wrong with this. It works just fine. You know, used it a whole bunch and what have you. It's got a, you know, very basic, just, you know, air connection, and then I put this little stub section of cable on here with a lenco connector. Of course, you can just clamp your stinger to it or whatever. I got some weld berries in there or something. But, ooh. I actually didn't realize this actually said it on here. Made in Tweeko de Mexico. What? Oh. Made in... Is that the same spelling? Anyways, it says made in Mexico on it. So, yeah, like I said, I'm just not really all that thrilled about that. I'd rather buy stuff made here in the US. This arc air torch does swivel around, but it's rather stiff to swivel around. I actually just got this the other day, labeled Profax, but seems to be made by Lenco. And God, I need to figure out how to do the manual focus on here, but made in US. And so it's not a huge difference, but the Profax torch is just a little bit more slender, and the swivel on the end of this torch is much easier to swivel than the arc air one. Now, that having been said, though, so, you know, granted this is labeled Profax, not Lenco, but you know, if you look at the catalog here, we have a Lenco and then a Profax right there, so there's obviously some kind of correlation going. But yeah, so I don't really like the arc air one, not necessarily because there's anything wrong with it. I just don't like that it's made overseas and what have you, and I feel like this is, you know, the cable on this one is more flexible and everything, and it's really nice how this one rotates more and shit. Now, I have not used this thing yet, but unfortunately this seems to be the crappiest quality thing that I have yet seen from Lenco. There is a lot of side-to-side play on this upper jaw here. But, you know, that being said, it still works just fine, or, well, because like I said, I haven't used it yet. Still holds the electrode just fine. Nothing, you know, nothing to write home there about that. But just if you look inside of here, it looks like this could definitely stand to be built heavier. I really wish that this was built a lot heavier. Now, mind you, this is the smallest torch that Profax has, the smallest gouging torch that Profax has. I don't know what it's rated for amp-wise. Suppose we can look in the catalog here in a second and see, but you know, it's still, you know, pretty good sized torch, and I'm not going to be gouging at some, you know, 600, 700, 800 amps, so I figured that was just fine. On the other end, it has the same type of connector here, like gas block, if you will. I think it's really funny. Anyways, you can see there's some writing that it says use air only, and in the little warning packet on it, it says do not use oxygen. I would sure like to see somebody use oxygen on a gouging torch. That would be very interesting results, I would imagine. But I actually didn't realize that this one here was going to come with air hoses and a cable hooked up. And so it comes with some 4/0 Tough Flex, which it sure is fucking flexible, all right. And it came with this connector on the end of it. And it came with, it came with this air hose here, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I don't know why they have such a large air coupler on there. And this hose, unfortunately, is kind of a raging piece of shit, and it's concerning that that looks very Chinesian, Taiwan, something lettering that's going on there. The cable lug here appears to be a Lenco one, and you know, it's not going to come across on the video, but the Lenco lugs are fucking extremely heavy built, which I really like. And then where the Arc Air had just a boot like so that would slide up and down on it, this one here actually has another section to it that actually gets screwed on there. As such. And then I put on a Gates hose that unfortunately is made in Mexico, but I was being impatient and wanted to run down and get a hose today to put on here, but I put my air coupler on the end of it just to make it simpler. And this air hose is extremely flexible, and it's this push lock hose that doesn't have to have any hose clamps or anything on it. Where you can see this other one here has got like a metal strap clamp, you know, pressed in place there. So talk more about that HD here in a second, but this is a 12-foot gouging torch, and like I said, I have not used it yet, but as of so far it looks pretty good. Like I said, it is actually, looking at it, it's actually the shittiest thing that I've seen from Lenco, which is still, like, even though this is the shittiest thing I've seen from Lenco, it's still overall better than that Arc Air one, in my opinion. But yeah, you know, on the side of this guy here, it says made in US, and then it does not say made in US on the this is the main cable, like the air and the power cable. It does not say made in US on it, so typically when it doesn't say made in US, it typically means it's overseas. And plus also just that font and lettering is very suspicious to me. So I don't know what's going on there. Also, I don't know too, like, you know, because this isn't labeled Lenco, is that kind of the same difference of like Blue Point versus Snap-on? That the Snap-on is the, you know, American-made kick-ass quality stuff, and the Blue Point is the more offshore kind of budget stuff. I'm not sure. But I got to do some gouging on my backhoe here pretty soon. And I already have done a fair bit of gouging on there, and I was tired of having to take the torch off of my truck, so hence the reason for buying a second torch for in the shop. And so of course you need carbons to go along with a gouging torch, and I actually took just a brake clean can here and knocked the top out of it, and makes a pretty good carbon holder. But for years I have been using Arc Air carbons because I figured it would probably be a good idea to go with, you know, the, you know, OEM carbons. I've never tried no-name carbons, so I guess if you have experience with that, let me know. But like a lot of things from Arc Air, they are overseas. In this case, made in Taiwan. So that kind of pisses me off. So when I got that torch, the gouging torch, it came with this catalog here. And I was just flipping through this catalog to try and find, I found Profax carbons in here. Because I love just a fucking paper catalog. It makes life so much easier, you know, never needs a software update, and it works when the fucking power's out. But, so, if we look here, like, you can see there's actually, like, a color difference in the book here, right? Like, if we look at the top here, like so, there's a yellow section and a red section. And so, this is the, selection of Lenco branded stuff that they had here. You see they have rod ovens and TIG connectors and grounds and all kinds of shit. And I didn't see the carbons in there. And then I realized that they actually have a completely separate spot here for the Profax labeled things, or Profax branded things. And so I've never used one of their MIG guns, so I can't speak to how those are. Okay, 151 to 162. But I think that's rather interesting, just like I said, you know, Snap-on and Blue Point, that they separate the two. But yeah, so I got the little guy here, and then they go, you know, bigger and bigger. And they do a fantastic job of, and they show here that, you know, it comes with the quick connector and the air hose and everything on there. I just didn't notice that when I ordered it. And I don't have a link for it or nothing. I got it from my local weld supply. But yeah, so Profax branded carbons. I personally have been fucking around with these hollow carbons, and so far I really like those. They don't seem to have hollow ones. They only, you know, according to this, have the regular round ones, flat ones, and the jointed ones for big boy stuff. I don't see anywhere that they specify where these are made. Where, you know, like you look over here, you can see that they specify that that's American made there. But I'm gonna try a box of those and see how they work out. But I was just gonna show you here some of the shit that they offer, just because I was unaware of this. Evidently, this is a stick welding stinger that it's kind of hard to understand what they're getting at here, especially through the video. But what it is it's got an on-off switch and a set of contacts inside the stinger. So, like, you know, in the case of my Trailblazer being an inverter welder, you can just put it in the remote stick setting and then turn the contacts off. And when you want to weld, you can turn it back on. But this is actually in the stinger itself. So the cable will be live, but the actual clamp and the stinger, you can disconnect power to it. So that's pretty slick. Lenco ground clamps are freaking amazing. I absolutely fucking love them. I'll show the couple that I have here in a second. And what's really sweet is all the specialty ground clamps that Lenco has. And so you can see, like, there's a C-clamp with a built-in swivel. So, like, you could say clamp it to a piece of pipe or whatever and have the swivel turn around, or if it's some weird fucked up shape, whatever. And you more, well, I guess they call them rotary grounds. But like so. And then here's a big piece that's designed to go in a piece of pipe. And evidently this is for if you need to connect multiple, I'd assume that's what they're illustrating here. If you need to connect, like, you know, say if you need four 4-aught cables going to something, I guess that's a option there. Ooh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that yet. Magnetic rotary ground. And then all their different connectors. What did I do with it? Yeah, so this is what most people have right here is a 45-degree one. They also make a straight one and then a double, and then they actually make insulated and non-insulated versions. And yeah, they're lugs. I don't have one handy at the moment, but the first time I picked up a Lenco lug, it was like, I don't know, 3 times as heavy as some of the others that I've dealt with. Yeah, they have all these cool little adapters and everything, like such. So in this case, what this is from the small size DINS connector, like the DINS 10, I think it is, up to the lc-40. So, like so. And then it's cool that they have them in red and black, just because it helps me to keep things organized. Yeah, chip and hammers as such. And the seems to be some really good steel that this is made out of. I actually sharpened this a little bit, and so it's not, you know, it's not like a knife or nothing, but it is quite sharp, and nice hickory handle on it. And yeah, rod ovens. I didn't know about this when I ordered the Keen one, and then all sorts of other stuff, and we don't need to go page by page through there. But yeah, so far everything that I've seen that's branded Lenco is fantastic, made in the US, and does its job really well. So like this is their I call it the like dildo style stinger, but I've had, I guess if you want to say like rotary, well shit, I'll grab one. I've used this like rotary type stinger a fair bit in the past. Concept being that, you know, you stick the rod in there and it twists down and, you know, holds the rod like so. But all the ones that I've ever seen before have this protrusion on the end here, where this one obviously does not. It's round all the way around. The other thing that I think is cool too is that this one, you can see a little jaw in there that comes down from the top. like so, and it just clamps down on the electrode. This guy here has actually, oh shit. This guy here has actually got like a little pin in the center. And so when you stick the rod in there and you crank down on it, you know, for one, that's obviously extremely low profile. You know, these normal styles here, you know, they're pretty small and easy to get into tight places, but I'm not sure how you beat that there. And you know, the whole stinger is, you know, only about the length of my hand, and I'm sure you could cut this down if you wanted to, like say, I don't know, cut off the rib section there, and then you'd only have just that little bit there. But anyways, this Lenco one actually will put like a little divot from that like spike right there. It'll actually put a little divot into the rod, and it holds onto the rod tighter than I've ever seen before. This guy here will hold on to a rod tighter than the Stinger V. That's not to say that these Stingers here have problems with these things just coming out or whatever. Like, you really got to work at it to get this out of here. The way that these guys work too is I'll actually, like this one, you can see, like so, these will also grip onto the rod pretty well, but this is something else. This one takes a little more time, but you can get it into tighter spaces. This one works just fine, you know, the vast majority of the time. And if you do need to get into some tight space, and you can see I've kind of melted the insulators on here, you can just simply, you know, fold rod over like so, and then, you know, it's about, actually it's thinner than the Lenco one is. And yeah, I'm not saying that these are bad in any way, it's just that, you know, trade-offs. You can see how much smaller this Lenco one is than the Stinger V, but I still do really like this one as well. And you know, of course, this is made in America as well too, so that's always nice. But so the these are quite cool. I wish I had some kind of size reference on these before I bought one, because I did not expect it to be this large. But again, you know, made in US and what have you. I don't know that it actually says it. The box said made in US, and it sure, you know, the quality sure represents that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's an inch thread bolt that's in there, so that's usually always a good start. But I was looking at this, and I thought it was really cool. Just that, like, you know, there's nothing to fucking go wrong on this guy. It's got a copper, like, rivet, if you will, through the hinge here, and it's actually like a double hinge, if you will. So there's, you know, essentially no side-to-side play. It is extremely tight, and even if this copper hinge fucked off on you, you know, you could just put a bolt through there or whatever. These open up fairly wide, and they have, you know, a nice deep throat on them. Oh, fuck, I'm 12. And yeah, really like these. But on something really thin, they don't grip very tight. You know, like, it doesn't hurt to stick your finger in there. So I did have problems of this not having a very good connection on just sheet metal. Like, you know, if you, and it was interesting, I only noticed a problem when MIG welding. I didn't have a problem stick welding, but MIG welding, and I cleaned the, you know, piece of steel that I was grounded to, no problem. Clean that up all real nice, and clean this down all nice and everything. But I think that the issue was that there's just simply not very much clamp force here, that it wasn't getting a very good connection. And I was watching this clamp when my helper was pulling the trigger, and I could actually see this clamp sparking each and every time my helper pulled the trigger. And so then I got one of these, which they have several variations of, which if you go back and look in the catalog there's a couple variations of this connector. This one so happens to be the one that has the quick connect built right into it, which I think is quite cool. But it's a brass C-clamp, ground clamp. And of course, you know, you could very easily just take a normal, you know, C-clamp and do something to add a connector to it. But I just really like that this one here is brass and that it's got the connector built right into it. But I actually, when I first got this clamp here, I was thinking like, okay, you know, I'll only use it when I'm MIG welding or something, when I need that extra, you know, conductivity, if you will, on the ground. But as it turns out, I actually use this C-clamp here far more often than I do the standard ground clamp. I've really gotten to like this. I'm not going to go through the catalog, but this is actually their smaller size of C-clamp ground clamp. They actually make one bigger. Well, you know what? I will, because I'm curious. I'm like curious for myself. So I was mistaken. This is the MIG 600. And yeah, so it's got the one where you stick the cable in the end of it. That one's got a bolt on it, and then this one here with the quick disconnect. But yeah, so it says this one here, jaw opening 2-inch and throat depth 2 1/8. So yeah, they're on the money with that. And so this is 2-inch and 1 3/4. So it's actually the same distance this way, is just a little less that way. But they have this other one here, which they say model G-50 WDM, which is the same with the quick connect on it. And says it weighs 70 ounces, so over 6 pounds or something. I can't, 5 ounces or 5 pounds, something like that. I don't know. But it says jaw opening 3 3/8 and throat depth 3 1/8. So what do we say? 3 3/8. So jaw opening that big. And that's been my one complaint with this one here, is that you can't get it over, you know, say like a piece of 4x4 square tube or something, which, okay, you couldn't get this other one over a 4x4, but it is neat that that one is larger. But yeah, so evidently the 3 part numbers for these quick disconnect C-clamps would be the MIG 300D, the MIG 600D, and the G-50 WDM for the larger one. Personally, I do not like these sheet metal ground clamps. I just think they're horrible and a waste of time. That larger clamp that I have is this one, and then they also have this one here. That would be rather interesting, how they're completely flat on the bottom. You know, maybe that make it easier to get it under like a piece of plate or something. But okay, last thing. So on the connectors, as far as lenco goes, I only have these lc-40s, and I was very confused as to what the difference was between the lc-40 and the lc-40 HD. Screwdriver. Well, pause it. And the difference is, so I can't tell any difference, and I don't believe that there is any difference in the plastic insulator And it's not even plastic, it's actually kind of soft. Like it feels more like a extremely hard rubber than it does some, you know, cheap, chintzy, fragile piece of plastic. I have no idea what it is though. But the difference is in the brass connector that's on the inside of it. So hopefully it comes across. What the shit did I just do? I don't know how to work technology. So this one being the standard one over here, and this one being the HD one over here. So the hole in the brass piece is larger on the HD one than it is over here. And as you can see, we have 2 grub screws on the HD versus the one on the other, and the overall brass chunk is larger. I personally really freaking wish that they did the 2 grub screw idea and the longer brass on this one here, because this size here is as big as I need. The standard one here, what the fuck is going on with the focus? The standard one here, as such, will just barely fit a piece of 3/0. Yeah, right there. Kind of hard to read. But 3/0 weld cable. The insulated cable will just barely fit into the rubber piece here, and then after you strip down this 3/0 cable, it'll just barely fit into here. And then if you crank the ever living shit out of the screw, words are hard, then the rubber covering will fit over here. But you really have to crank down on this, which for me, I don't have any use for anything over 4/0 cable, or sorry, over 3/0 cable. So these HD ones here, in my opinion, would really only be useful if you were working with larger than 3/0 cable, like say starting at 4/0 and going up. But yeah, I really wish that they did the 2 grub screws and the longer piece of brass on the standard version here. But there you go. There is a very long video of me talking about a product that I like. And I don't know, not that I've had anybody, well, haven't had anybody say anything about it yet. Maybe some people think it, but yeah, I'm not fucking sponsored by anybody. I'm sure Lenco doesn't even know I exist, and probably wouldn't care if they did know I existed. I just want to share with you guys, share with you the kind of stuff I wish I had seen before spending my money on this kind of stuff. Something that I personally have noticed is that the more the more like industrial that a company gets, the harder that it is to learn about them just on the internet. I can't really think of a good example at the moment, but the cheaper and shittier and chintzier that a product gets, the more they advertise. You know, like perfect example would be like Yes Welder. I'm sure if you spent any amount of time on the internet searching anything related with welders, you have seen the advertisements for those Yes Welders, and it's the dumbest fucking name that I've ever heard of. But at the same time, that's, I guess, what the Chinese stuff does. But I personally have never seen advertisement outside of a welding supply house for Lenco. I feel like really a lot of the reason for that is that they just don't need to advertise. You know, they deem that they have as much business as they want without advertising. But then on the other hand, you know, and I totally understand that, you know, like, good on you for not needing to advertise. But on the other hand, you know, you have to learn about that company somehow. Um, and as much as I was hoping for not an hour-long video, this is really actually a perfect example. That yeah, the more industrial that a company gets, the less advertising they do, if any at all, and the harder that it is to find pictures of the stuff, or detailed information about it. So if you look in Lenco's catalog here on their ground clamps and their stingers, they're not actually pictures of the product. They are like artist renditions. I don't know. It's not a picture. It's a printing or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say. And so it makes it difficult because this is not like a direct representation of what the product is. Like, for example, if you look at this here, you can see on the actual product that it has cast into it MiG 600, and it looks like, you know, they put the brass piece in it and then pin it in place, and I don't know, maybe it's threaded or something like that. You don't see any of that kind of detail in the catalog. Yeah, so I don't know, rambling on. I guess to me that's kind of the I don't know, mark of the beast, if you will, if you see a whole shitload of, you know, especially paid advertising where they pay somebody to say nothing but good things about the company. But when you see a lot of that stuff, when you see it advertised in magazines and shit and all this other kind of stuff, it usually, not always, usually is a pretty good indication that it's really not that great of a company, because if their product really was so kick-ass, they wouldn't have to advertise it, you know. Just the quality of their product would speak for itself. And so, you know, sure, that's the case with Lenco, but if you don't work in a place where they have a bunch of this shit, where you can actually get your hands on it or anything, or, you know, your local weld supply doesn't carry it or whatever, it makes it frustrating to learn about these companies, to find out about these companies. And so that's the purpose of this. And trying to think if I meant to say something else. I've showed in this video everything that I currently own from Lenco. I don't own anything else from Lenco at the moment. But yeah, like I said, anything that is actually branded Lenco, fantastic, American made, love the quality. Not to say that they're perfect, you know, I wish these were heavier and what have you. I expected better out of that Profax torch. Like, because I paid $360 with shipping on that thing, which I actually don't know how much an Arc Air one is. But yeah, for knocking on $400, I was hoping for a little bit better quality out of that thing. And seeing how that Profax torch is put together and everything, I would have gladly paid an extra $50 or whatever to just refine those couple things on the torch. And yeah, I guess that's all. Okay, I lied, that's not all. My helper found these made in USA clear lenses, the 4x5 clear lenses down at the local weld supply, and I really like that they don't come with any bullshit plastic wrapping on, you know, that like plastic film that is often on clear lenses and shit. It's just a clear lens and a piece of paper to help keep it protected, and that's the way it should be, because, you know, again, like I was saying, the cheaper and shittier and more offshore that something gets, not only the more advertising and blah 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 that they do, but the more packaging that shit comes in. You know, if you get a made in China clear lens, it is probably, you know, wrapped up 3 or 4 times in all these different things, you know, have that clear film over the top of it. You buy some from Harbor Freight and, you know, they put it in styrofoam and then they wrap it and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, appreciate that this is not that. So need a clear lens, call them.